Welcome to Technovation. I'm your host, Peter High. My guest today is Casey Santos. Casey is the Chief Information Officer of Asurion, a global provider of insurance, repair, replacement, installation, and 24/7 support for cell phones, laptops, and household appliances with roughly 30,000 employees worldwide and roughly 300 million customers. She took on her role nearly a year ago. As someone who onboarded into her role during the pandemic, Casey has had reason to think about how to bring in great, talented people and to motivate them to stay during a period when so many companies have found that challenging. I look forward to covering that among a variety of other topics with her. Prior to her current role, Casey was a technology executive at AllianceBernstein, at General Atlantic, and at McKinsey, where she was also a consultant for a time. Casey Santos, welcome to Technovation. Great to speak with you today.
Good to be here.
Well, Casey, I wanted to begin with Asurion. I've just provided a thumbnail sketch in terms of the business, the diverse array of things that you're involved in as a business. Can you take it from there and offer a little bit more color commentary into the business you're in?
Sure. So as you mentioned, Asurion, we're here to provide a great tech experience for our customers. And so we carry that through in a very customer-centric way, making sure that the experience is pleasant as you try to work through whether it be fixing or replacing one of your devices or just trying to optimize how you use it. Over the years, we started more in the warranty and insurance world, and we have been transforming our business throughout many years. And with most recently, our acquisition of the U-Break iFix stores, which are being rebranded as Asurion stores. So we have a retail presence and can reach customers where they are, whether it be in their homes when they needed support through connected home product or through our major appliance repair businesses. So really exciting company. We're global. We are very tech-centric. To create those great experiences, we use technology to help our experts as well as to create a good experience for our customers on their side. So
tailwinds your business has as well. You talk about the various devices you help your customers with. The proliferation of devices for all of us has spelled remarkable opportunity for your organization, no doubt. And you see in some of the statistics I mentioned in the introduction as to the scale of your operation. But one, as you point out, that's becoming a lot more tech-centric. Now, you run IT, you are the Chief Information Officer of the organization. Talk a bit about your purview as a technologist within this more tech-centric organization, more broadly speaking, please.
Yeah, so, the technology team does everything kind of your basic infrastructure support and all of our regular tools that any company would need in technology, right? Your kind of laptop support, mobile devices, et cetera. But in addition, we provide the technology that underpins our supply chain. So things to optimize across our many locations throughout the globe as we move hardware and replacement parts for different devices and as we bring devices in for repair. So that's a very interesting logistics problem, as well as the technology that supports our experts. Our experts need tools that help them optimize their ability to support. So whether it be knowledge tools that provide information of, I get a call about a particular device. It's hard to know every detail about every device all the time. So being able to feed that information to them quickly so that they can answer questions more effectively. And really, we have a saying here where we say, we're remarkably human, delightfully simple, and actually helpful. So that technology underpins that experience of making sure that we're able to create just an exceptional experience for our customers. So my technology team helps support all of that. We also own the enterprise architecture function. So we make sure that as we grow and change, that we're using the best technology and consistent and leveraging and evolving our roadmap. So
that's interesting. I mean, in many ways, I can imagine, you have an ability to live your customer's journey a bit as well. You're using those same sorts of technologies and the extent to which they may have issues. To what extent are you able to be sort of a customer zero of sorts for Asurion? I recognize it's not a perfect analogy, but
oh no, I am.
I mean,
one is within our technology team, we want to make sure we're providing that same experience to our employees, right, worldwide. But we are all users of these devices, and So sometimes I'm a beta tester. So we have a very interesting product for piloting right now called Mobile Mechanic. So someone came to my driveway and did a maintenance check and changed the oil in my car, right? That was pretty awesome. That's a very early product, very exciting one that we're just piloting. My husband's phone the other day, my husband insists on using an iPhone 8, which I love, but he needed a new battery. So, going to the Asurion store and getting through that experience of changing out your battery and making sure it's a top-notch experience. We all are users of technology. And so seeing how that plays out and then how we can make that experience better is really critical as part of our role.
That makes sense. And you talked about the growing physical presence, which is relatively recent in the company's history. Talk a bit about the role that technology is going to play there now that you have more of an omni-channel approach that you were developing with the proliferation of some of these stores.
Yeah. So, these stores are a critical way to reach consumers, and whether it be through our relationships we have with the carriers and giving just more places for people to come in person and have that in-person touch. That's one way of doing it. It's also, the phone experience, messaging. We have a messaging platform. So if you're more of a chat person, we have that ability to provide chat support, really meeting customers where they are. And I think the biggest change has been this moving people out into the field, coming to your home, helping with your connected home product. That creates a whole nother set of tools and things that we need to provide to our experts so that they can be really effective in a home or in a driveway, for instance. So the technology has to cut across everything from kind of lead generation to how we handle our field operations, our scheduling tools, et cetera. So the technology underpins all of that.
I mentioned, Casey, that you joined the company during the pandemic and therefore onboarded presumably primarily at a distance in quarantine. And that had to have given you a new appreciation as to the complexities and differences relative to other transitions you've had from one company to another, which I have to imagine has also educated your own thought process about how to welcome future colleagues of yours, members of your team who would perhaps also primarily be joining at a distance, virtually as opposed to offices. I realize you have some new offices. Perhaps we'll get into that as well. Yeah. So you very much see a return, at least to some extent, back to offices also. But talk a bit about how your own personal experience has helped you think about deepening and improving the experience of subsequent associates and colleagues of yours who've joined after you.
Yeah, I think one thing that really struck me is having been on this side of it coming in is it's very hard to get to know everybody through remote, through Zoom calls. And thank goodness we have Zoom. It would have been much harder with just voice back in the day, right? But a lot of companies were able to leverage what we call a cultural bank of currency, per se, right? You already had relationships built with people across the organization. When you join a new organization, you don't have that, right? So you're starting from scratch. You're trying to build relationships. You have to be very, very thoughtful about it. The team here did a great job of onboarding me and was very thoughtful about making sure I met all the right people across many different parts, functions of the organization. But it was a lot of work. And we did notice that when we started to see, when we have had attrition, it is much higher among people that started during COVID, right? So those connections people are feeling that. So as we think through coming back, to returning to office or a hybrid mode of work, right, where we're more flexible, we have to think about how we create a good experience and how do we leverage those in-person moments for what's really most valuable about them. It's that interaction, it's that collaboration, it's that relationship building. We just did open a wonderful, new, beautiful office here in Nashville. It's built for collaboration and innovation. It's an incredible space. And as we've brought people in, we're not 100% back, but we're coming in spurts. And when we do, we bring them in for innovation sessions, and the feedback has been really, really strong. And so as we think about hybrid, how do we create level experiences? We have seen when you have people in the office and then you try to connect people in through video, how do we create that so that the people on either side don't feel they're not being part of the conversation, right? So we're looking at different technology to help enable that experience. And then really concentrating our time together in person around those innovation experiences instead of coming to the office and sitting and staring at your computer, right? Like that's great, but how do you also make sure you're interacting with others when you are together?
Yeah. And if I recall the timeline correctly, and please do correct me if I've got it incorrect, Casey, that a lot of the planning around the new headquarters and building and so forth was pre-COVID. And therefore, there was probably a whole number of assumptions naturally about how and where work would be done that predated a lot of the changes, mindset changes, and otherwise that have resulted from the length of this experiment we've been put through as a result of the pandemic. I wonder how, if much, has changed in terms of the plans of how those spaces are set up and what they'll be used for. You alluded a little bit to some of those differences, but I'd love to delve a little bit more deeply into that as a result of how work has been done successfully or not, as the case may be, during the past two years in quarantine and through the pandemic.
I mean, I feel really blessed that we had a really good head start, right? We had built this building. We're a very innovative, we have journey teams. We're very collaborative by nature. And so when we designed this building, we did design it for those experiences. What we didn't probably put as much focus on is what happens when you have 2 people at home and 8 in a really great room, right? So we had invested in really top-notch AV equipment. And I think the one area that we've done some investment, we'll probably grow the investment in, is more kind of electronic whiteboarding capabilities and how you integrate in tools to create those sticky note experiences or design thinking kinds of exercises. How do you do that with one part of the team remote, the other part of the team in a room? So that's the area we'll probably lean into a little more. Like I said, we have a great head start. We've got facilities that are made for this, but definitely we'll be leaning into that a little bit in 2022.
Very much makes sense. And I know that, I mean, obviously this has also been a trying time for a lot of organizations, as you point out, right? Many like you have had issues, some more dramatic than you, I would imagine, in terms of great people leaving, especially those who joined during the pandemic, a little bit more difficulty in sort of feeling the culture of the organization, feeling like you're part of something bigger than just yourself, et cetera. And I know you've put a lot of thought into ways to counterbalance that and new methods to use in order to attract great talent. Can you talk about at least some of the philosophical points that have come to mind as a result of your own thought process relative to this?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 2 areas. I think about attracting great people, and then I think about retaining great people, and they are very much intertwined, right? So when it comes to attracting people, I think the days of, in this market, the days of just posting a job on LinkedIn, expecting 100 people to apply to it, or, those days are wishful thinking, right? So it's going to be more about having a personal connection with people out there in the industry, making sure people know our story, know what a great place we are to work, what kind of culture we have. I think we have a great story to tell. It's a great place to be. But making sure we get that word out and we're engaged in our community, right? Whether that be the technology community or doing nonprofit work. We have a really amazing foundation and nonprofit efforts here that we do in our community, and really leaning into that. I think, we have been doing it. I think it slowed down a little bit during COVID just because we couldn't be with people in person. And so we're going to do more of that. But I think we are all recruiters in some respect, right? As far as telling the story and finding people for those roles. And then I think on the retaining, again, it was hard when we were apart to develop people, to coach people actively, to grow their skills. And that's such an important part. We are a technology team, but technology doesn't happen by itself. It's all about its people. The people are the most important part. So how do we give them opportunities, help them see a path for their career, again, feel connected back to what they're doing, making sure they understand the vision and where we're going. I think that, again, was harder for people that were newer to an organization to understand, and just hard to get through to folks in video conferencing. So we'll do more to tell that story, to sit with people and come up with career development plans and grow their skills, and also bring people together so they feel connected to each other. And it's easier to collaborate and understand how other people are feeling and get work done when you can come together, periodically, and hopefully as much as we can.
That makes sense. You have a really interesting background, Casey. You've got an undergraduate technology degree from MIT. You've got 2 masters from the University of Pennsylvania in International Studies, as well as an MBA. You spent time as a consultant and presumably developed kind of a toolkit as a consultant would to help a variety of different organizations with issues or opportunities that they're facing, questions they're posing that they don't immediately have their own answers to that you would provide to them. It strikes me you've got a really fascinating toolkit, an unusual one, not unique perhaps for CIOs, but an unusual one nevertheless in terms of the confluence of skills you bring to the table now as a chief information officer, that you have this consultative approach, that you've got the business acumen from not only your experience in business, but also your MBA, that you've, had reason to contemplate the broader world through your international studies programs, in addition to having very deep from the beginnings of your formal education, technical chops as well. So talk a little bit about kind of your own meanderings through your career and how you've drawn upon past stops to through to your current one as a chief information officer.
Yeah, I think meandering is probably the right word. It wasn't as if I mapped all this out and then had it all down in a 5-year plan or anything like that. I followed some of my own passions and my own observations about what I wanted to learn and grow in. So, I'm a technologist, I'm an engineer. Love solving problems, learned a lot from that, love, the technical aspect of it. I was an aerospace engineer. I left that and went into kind of technology consulting, doing software development. I realized there were all sorts of business problems out there that were really interesting to solve, that the technology could help, right? So started to learn a little more and realized my business acumen wasn't very strong when I was challenged with coming up with an accounting system for auto dealerships. I realized I don't know what a debit or a credit is, and maybe that would be an interesting thing to learn. So that led me to business school to round myself out a bit. And from that came consulting. And what I did learn with consulting, which was a really good skill, and I think it's helped me throughout my career, is that thinking from the top down and understanding how to map out an approach to challenges while still being tactical and getting stuff done it's an unusual combination, right? And being able to really make sure you've boiled up a problem into the actual problem and solving it, rather than trying to play whack-a-mole around a lot of symptoms, was a skill that I was lucky to get from my experience in consulting. But then again, I missed being hands-on and getting it done. So moved back into the practitioner world. And so that combination of skills, like I said, wasn't planned, but it served me well because I can speak both languages. And I think it's really great for technologists to be able to cater the message to whoever it is you're speaking with, and making sure you can get your message across. It makes it more impactful as a technologist. So it was like I said, a lot of meandering, and it's got me where I am today, which I'm really, very thankful for.
That's fantastic. You also are a very successful woman in technology, which, though perhaps there are a growing number of you, it's still not nearly where it should be. I can only imagine that at the beginnings of your time in technology, it was probably even more of a paucity of women in your class, studying engineering at MIT, for example, way back when. To talk a bit about your own sort of state of the union of women in technology from where you sit, and what you see in terms of progress or progress to come.
Yeah. I mean, I prefer to think of it as glass half full, right? And the progress we've made. You're right. The numbers were definitely not as good when I started my career. And I'm not even going to tell you how many years ago that was, but it was many years ago. I think what's very interesting and what I like to focus on with it is I had a lot of really great people that helped me throughout my career and helped what I call sponsor me, right? Really, we're big proponents across leadership teams, whether it be at NASA or in some of these consulting roles. And I think the more we do of that, the more we're going to continue to kind of grow our diverse ranks and helping people and developing their skills and giving them opportunities. So glass half full, and that we're much better off than we were. But that doesn't mean we stop, right? We continue to work to grow a diverse workforce across many spectrums. So, and we're better as everyone brings a different angle and a different approach. And I think you bring all that together, it makes you more effective as a business. So I'm very optimistic, but I know we still have more work to do.
Thank you for that perspective. I wanted to also ask you about trends as you look to the future and as you contemplate where innovation might take a company like Asurion or topics of interest to you personally. What are some of the things that pop to the top of the list for you?
Trends. I think from a technology perspective, how do we use technology to do a couple of things? One, to be a better provider as far as that customer experience. I think looking at things from the customer first is a big area, and then you can apply the technology to make that happen. I'm really a big fan right now of kind of these empathy exercises where you put yourself in the seat of somebody and say, how are they thinking? How are they feeling? How are they doing? Design thinking concepts. Again, it makes us better technologists as we come up with solutions. I think more of that customer-centric view of the world will drive our technology, especially as we become more attuned to having, services brought to our front doorsteps, right? Like, ordering food, groceries, that's something that came out of the pandemic that I think will continue, maybe not to such extreme levels, but, that convenience is there now. So that I think technology that enables that, the mobile first kind of experience. I think, AI, machine learning, natural language processing, there's some really amazing work being done in that space, whether it be to just automate things that are maybe not differentiators for you that make you more efficient, or to provide insight into that experience for your customers, right? Understanding, being able to connect the dots more quickly on how you serve somebody and understanding, where they've been, what they're looking for. Those tools will help a lot. And then, of course, there are things that are automated experiences using better natural language processing. I've been spending some time with different partners to hear what they're doing in natural language processing. It is incredible to see that with, combined with some of the speech tools and things that we can do to make the experience just more human and more effective. So technology is great. I think the trend towards more customer-centric experiences is going to be really critical in this next coming years, and which technology is used to do that. There's a broad range to offer those up.
Yeah. So. Well, Casey Santos, thank you so much for a really interesting and broad-ranging conversation covering areas of emphasis for you and your team at Asurion, a bit more about kind of your own meandering across a variety of different opportunities that represent a really interesting and dynamic career, as well as some of your thoughts about the future as well. I've really appreciated your insights.
No, it's always great to speak with you, Peter. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Casey.